Penn State fans, Bob Flounders here with Max Ralph. Hope you guys are doing well. It's a nice Monday. It's a nice Monday afternoon here in Pennsylvania, November 3rd. Max, 2 days removed from Penn State's unsuccessful trip to Columbus and the Horseshoe to face the number one team in the country. 30 good minutes. That second half was not good.
Not good.
Max, before we get to something that's definitely on your mind, we just heard from Terry Smith ahead of Penn State plays Indiana. So they're going from number one to number two with a team that is just not looking very good. Max, I was just thinking, it's just surreal and incredible to me that it's November 3rd and, Penn State hasn't won a game, I think, since September 13th. It's a crazy world that Penn State fans, Penn State's program, and Penn State's media are living in right now. And, Terry Smith is trying to hold a team together, even though he took over knowing that, in about 5 or 6 days, he had to go to Iowa. And then after a bye, they were going to go face unbeaten Ohio State, the number one team in the country. And then right around the corner from that, a home game against number 2 Indiana, Max. And that team looks every bit as good as any other team in the country. So it's hard for me to believe that at some point morale does not become an issue for this team as they continue to get their heads kicked in. I don't know how you feel, but one thing you want to get to, and I think it's a very good point, is I think as the losses continue to mount, Max, the fans are wondering, so what's going to change? Something has to change. What will change? You and I were talking before we came on the podcast. I just don't see a world in which he's going to make any staff changes, Max. I think if that was going to happen, it would have happened probably on the bye week. Mm-hmm. But to do it now, I don't know, to make change for change's sake. They have so many issues. Whoever they bring in, I don't know if he can fix them all.
That's absolutely correct, Bob. I think I've seen a lot of comments. I've gotten some emails. There's social media is going rampant, and they say like, "Oh, Andy Kotelnicki should be out of here," or "Jim Knowles needs to be fired," or the wide receivers coach Marcus Higgins, quarterback Danny O'Brien. Okay, deep breath, everybody. Yes, this season is a disaster. Nothing is going well in any of those departments. But let's also take a look at the situation here. You have an interim head coach who is not going to be the head coach in a month and a half, a month at this point. Mm-hmm. You have Jim Knowles, defensive coordinator, who is still under contract for next season. That doesn't mean he's absolutely going to be back, but there is a possibility of that if the next head coach wants him here, and if Jim Knowles wants to be here. He is under contract for next season. Andy Kotelnicki, I'm less positive about his contract status, but the writing may be on the wall for him. He may end up being somewhere else next year. But you have these things, and you have the interim head coach. You are not firing a coach that may end up costing you money that is just not necessarily needed right now in the middle of the head coaching search. You're not asking an interim head coach to make those kinds of changes when a season is already lost anyway. You lost 5 in a row. You're pretty much toast on making a bowl game unless you win 3 in a row at the end of the year. And they are potentially winnable games, but it's not going to be easy, even at that. You're just not making those significant changes right now, especially not under interim leadership for Terry Smith. Look, I think he knows, and he said as much, that there are a lot of problems going on, especially on the offensive side of the ball. He keeps saying he's going to get them fixed, that they're going to make changes, but it's not going to be on the coaching staff. I see this notion everywhere. Like I said, I've gotten multiple emails about it even. It's just not going to happen. I think that's something that Penn State fans as a whole need to understand. There are going to be wholesale changes once December comes and there's a new coaching staff. But it's just not going to happen in the middle of this season. And even though it kind of sucks to admit it, this season's a lost cause. Like, you just got to give up hope for you can hope that maybe they win 1 or 2, maybe 3 games at the end of this, but none of it really matters in the long run because this is going to be a new regime next year. Yeah. There are not – the emphasis is not on winning games right now this season as much as It is figuring out all the financials, all the organization for next year. And Terry Smith, an interim head coach, is not firing an offensive or defensive coordinator at Penn State.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the season became a lost cause, and in my mind, that Iowa game was the pivoting point for me. They had a chance to win, a real chance to win that, even though for some dumb Kirk Ferentz coaching decisions, they're up 21-10. If they win that game, it's kind of a signature win. They could kind of, you could kind of work around playing Ohio State at Indiana, back to back weeks. You can kind of, because then you got 4 wins, and you're trying to at least, I hate to say it, but you're trying to at least get to 500 and hopefully a winning season. You lose the Iowa game, and it's pretty much a lost cause because there's not a world in which they were going to beat Ohio State. It was nice that they played them tough for 30 minutes, but you saw that second half, and it's going to be more of the same. It's just going to be more of the same against Indiana, who I think is as good, maybe better than if they're healthy, better than Ohio State. Max, I also say, if you part ways with Kotelnicki, what are you going to do? Are you going to teach a new offense to a team in a month that is completely different from what the installation that Andy had? I mean, you have to live with what you have right now. You could have made a couple of changes cosmetically with maybe some assistance that, that could have happened. But there's just not. People want somebody held accountable for this. Well, the person that was already held accountable. It was James,
correct?
Right? It was James. You have to keep some semblance of a staff together and live with the results. And to your point, Max, Terry Smith is saying all the right things, right?
Mm-hmm.
The team fought, the team battled. Effort's not an issue. He's going to say what he has to say. Like if he says anything else other than that, then he's probably out of here because that was what he said his mission statement was when he took over. So I don't necessarily agree with some of the things that he has said or some of the things he's kind of portrayed with the team and the effort and all that. But that's what he's going to say. You have to kind of judge it for yourself. That's what we've been doing. I think there are more issues now than when maybe they took over. And I just think the thing that's going to really, really come into play for me, Max, is if they suffer another disheartening loss on Saturday to a team that is 2 touchdown favorites, and they have really been focused all year, this Indiana team, credit Cignetti. But I just don't know how much more, especially the senior players, can endure, because at some point, it's, the younger players want to play, but the older guys, they have other things on their minds. They could say they're going to play for their team, but they live in a world where in a couple of weeks or a couple of months, they're going to be training for the rest of their football lives, and they have to think about that. So I could see this getting worse.
Oh, it absolutely can get worse. And one thing that I'm sure will come up when Johnny and I make our predictions on Thursday's live pod, but is just worth mentioning now. Ohio State probably could have beaten Penn State by even more on Saturday if it wanted to. Ryan Day kind of seemed to ease off the gas a little bit, running the ball in the fourth quarter. Curt Cignetti is not going to do that. He just isn't. That guy loves putting up 50, 60 points a game. If he has the opportunity, he's going for the jugular. And it's going to get worse. You're probably going to see guys quit on the team, for lack of a better term. Whether if it's on-field effort, saying quit on the team is like everybody has to make a personal decision and everything. I could really see some guys saying, okay, I'm going to train for the NFL. We'll see how it goes. I will give Penn State credit. I think that this roster is made up of a lot of guys who really love this program and this team and want to fight for this team. But when you get to a point, it's a business decision. That's what it is. I think it could absolutely happen. We'll see. Terry Smith was asked about potentially playing a bowl game today. Not that Penn State's going to get there because they got to beat Michigan State, Nebraska, and Rutgers. Did get maybe a little bit easier with Nebraska's quarterback getting hurt. But even if they got there, he thinks they'd play. There are a lot of people who would not play in that game, even if they took the invite.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be Terry's call anyway. If we get that far down the road and they can get to 6 or 7 wins, which I think 7 is pretty much out the window. Six is there's a shot at that, but I would say, again, it was fair to ask him the question, but I think we're going to have a better vision of where Penn State is at after this week and how this week goes. I'm very curious, Max, to see how they are received by the crowd. I'm very curious to see if some of the things that on Terry Smith's fix-it list, which is growing by the day, actually kind of get fixed. One thing, Max, here as we talk here on the Blue White Breakdown on Monday. Hope you're enjoying listening or watching Bob Flounders and Max Schaaf. One thing so everyone wants to see Koby Howard, and I get it. Everyone would like to see Tyseer Denmark. But it's hard to put them in games against if they're not completely on the same page with what they need to be doing as far as where they need to be. Do they have the quarterback's trust? But Terry Smith did say it. In the last two games, I think the two biggest plays in the passing game were probably Koby Howard catches as far as maybe yardage. So I'm interested to see how they actually do that. And Terry Smith all but said, look, he actually didn't all but say it. He said, look, he's going to play this week, and he's going to play more reps. So they might as well put a bullseye on his back. The minute he goes into the game, if you're Indiana, it's going to be a trigger because you don't have to worry about any other wideout. But I just don't know. I want to be fair to Koby. I want to be fair to Tyseer in terms of where they are, in terms of readiness to play. I kind of think if they really felt they were ready, I think we probably would have seen a little bit more of them. I think they're going to be in the game. I just don't. If you're a Penn State fan, I would not, against this defense, I would not expect banner days from them or multiple catch days, just because I just don't know how ready they really are. I know it's easy to get wideouts, you would think, ready, but the fact that they haven't played yet gives me a little bit of pause. Yeah,
you're right. I mean, he said all of the past 2 weeks that they were going to play more against Ohio State. Koby played a little bit more. Tyseer only played one snap. But Koby Howard has had the biggest play in each of the past two games. 14-yarder at Iowa and a 26-yarder at Ohio State. That guy needs to be on the field. I understand what Terry Smith is saying, and your point is echoing his. Maybe he's not ready. Maybe he's not. Like, right. if he runs a route short, if he's not taking an option, those things exist. But as Terry Smith is saying this in today's press conference, even though I can say, like I understand, that makes sense. To me, that should maybe show up at the next level. If you have a young guy who is trying to learn the offense. In college football, I think that's a coaching failure. If you have a guy who is clearly talented enough to win on a few reps, maybe he's not playing 30 snaps a game. But you have to have 5 to 10 plays for a guy who's going to be able to explode in your playbook. And Penn State hasn't had it this year with a guy like that who has already shown in very brief action that he can handle it. So that goes on Marcus Hagans. That goes on Andy Kotelnicki. That goes on James Franklin at the start of the year. Like, we heard that he was talented. You have to be able to adjust to find a way to get him on the field. I mean, obviously it is not an apples to apples situation. But imagine if Ohio State said, well, Jeremiah Smith, you ran like 5 routes wrong in your freshman training camp. You're not going to play, right?
Yeah.
Like if you have the talent, you kind of have to tailor to it. And yes, it's on the players as well to step into it. And he probably won't play every snap on offense, but he needs to play some more because clearly he has some juice, and it's on the coaches to figure it out. And they've just completely failed to do it through 8 games.
Max, here's a question for you. It was brought up a little bit by Mark Wogenrich, I think, in the presser today. On a scale of 1 to 10, how concerned do you think Penn State is about their quarterback depth chart with no more Drew Aller? He was at Columbus, left ankle surgery, hobbling around in a cart with the team. You have Ethan Grunkmeyer. We really don't know much about how healthy Jackson Smolik is with that left arm. He looked like he was in some significant discomfort, at some point during the Iowa game. I mean, Beckham Kritza looks like I don't know. I don't know if it would be fair to put him out there. Quite honestly, they're messing around with Liam Clifford and maybe a couple other players as kind of like wildcat options or trick play options. But my point is, Ethan Grunkmeyer took some shots against Ohio State. He's probably going to that Indiana defense roughed up the Oregon offense in Eugene. Do you have to kind of be a little bit careful, I guess is what I'm saying, just so you can compete in the final month of the season? Because I hate to say it, if Grunkmeyer gets hurt, can you imagine what the on-field product's going to look like?
No, I can't. And this was something I was just thinking about and wrote a little bit about in my What We Learned column that comes out every Monday on PennLive.com. This is a really poor reflection on the way the coaching staff recruited the quarterback position the past few years. It's not an entirely fair criticism because you lost 2 guys to injury, but the fact that you have a freshman quarterback, and all due respect to Beckham Kritza, but when he came in, we knew he was a project piece.
Yeah.
You have a scholarship guy in your depth chart who has been thrust into potentially playing, and you don't trust him. You might not trust any freshman. It's just how college football works. But to be in this situation and your next answer is playing Liam Clifford as Wildcat quarterback, that means you probably didn't do a very good job recruiting. And look, things are going to change a lot next year with a head coach. Ethan Grunkmeyer, Jackson Smolik, who knows if any of them will be here. Grunk's still got a couple games to show if maybe he could be the guy. But there's no 2026 quarterback committed to Penn State right now. Troy Hoon was there for a little while. He decommitted after James Franklin got fired. This is a really dire situation at quarterback. And to be clear, I really like Ethan Grunkmeyer. I think he's in a tough situation. I think the kid can throw it really well if he gets the right offense, the right situation. An offense that's able to throw it more than 15 yards down the field might help. I think it's interesting, but it is absolutely an indictment on the coaching staff. Another one in a multitude of indictments that we've already talked about here today, Bob. But the quarterback situation is not good. And Jackson Smolik, if he can't go for another couple weeks, that's concerning. Yeah.
The new coach is going to be portal shopping for a quarterback. Yeah. There's just no question. He probably maybe 2. And if you get the right coach, you can see some people know how to really evaluate the quarterback position. That's going to be one. That's definitely that to me. So to me, I'm not trying to go off topic, but it's a priority. The next head coach had better be an offensive guy who can evaluate talent and can. And I'm not just talking about quarterback. I'm talking about wideout. But I just think whatever Pat Kraft's going to do, the next guy better have a really firm grasp, and he's got to be a proven guy when it comes to offense, just because of all the things you mentioned. The other thing is the ripple in the pond. Drew Aller gets hurt, but also Bo Prabula leaves. Mm-hmm. So it's, a lot of factors here at work. Grunkmeyer, there was, a couple of years ago, Grunkmeyer was probably the number 3 quarterback at the start of the season at Penn State. But this is the world that they wanted. This is the world that is here. But man, if Grunkmeyer gets hurt, it's all the sand's going out of the hourglass, and this is going to be. I'm talking about if he gets hurt against Indiana. It's just going to be a 3-9 season. You're going to have to take your medicine, hope the new guy has a better plan than maybe the current staff and the old guy had when it came to quarterbacks.
Yeah, not to beat a dead horse here, Bob, but to your point, and to the point of the next guy better have a different mindset about the transfer portal, James Franklin never signed a quarterback in the transfer portal at Penn State. I mean, yes, his starter was in place for every year that he was here with Aller, with Sean Clifford, with Trace McSorley, Hackenberg. That was a thing, but there was no depth once he got down to the end of it. Really interesting decision and poorly done. And yeah, I look, we're talking about a lot of hypotheticals here, but the quarterback situation is really rough.
Yeah. Max, one thing I wanted to get to here on the Blue White Breakdown as we approach 20 minutes on a lovely Monday, November 3rd. Indiana's coming to town, 9-0, 6-0. They put it on Maryland. They put it on everyone, man. They scored 63 on Illinois. They went into Eugene and suffocated I thought a pretty good offense.
Oh,
The
yeah.
final score was 30-20. It might actually have been a little bit more deceptive. They really kind of controlled that game for a long stretch, and I was impressed. I was very impressed with Oregon when they came in for the whiteout game.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to ask you this: Terry Smith keeps talking about it's my job to fix it. You know who else said that? James Franklin said that once the losing started. And I think if you're a Penn State fan, if you're a Penn State fan, my thing is this: you guys keep saying you're going to fix stuff, and it never gets fixed. So stop saying you're going to fix it and just go fix it. I think that has some people annoyed, and I think they should be annoyed. But the reason I bring it up is I don't know that he's going to fix the corner issue, because he finally said something that resonated with me. These guys believe their own press clippings at the start of the year, and they went out against Ohio State, and they said, well, you know what? Jeremiah Smith's good. Carnell Tate, great. But they haven't seen corners like us. And if you watch, they actually they played them almost, head up. They didn't give them any. I mean, they dared them to kind of go by them or to put a move on them. And that's exactly what they did. I didn't see a lot of deviation there as the game went on. And Terry said, you know what? You probably should have had a little bit more respect maybe for the eventual Heisman Trophy winner, possibly, and Carnell Tate, who could be a first-round pick as well. I just don't think, Indiana's got some receivers too. The one guy, Surratt, has a hamstring issue, but I don't know that it's going to matter. If they play like that against Indiana, Curt Cignetti is going to eat them alive. I'm very curious to see if Terry Smith gets after these guys, on the practice field, and if they change up some of their coverages against good wideouts, because if you press these guys, they're going to put 40 or 50 points on you.
Yeah, Bob, this all just goes back to what we talked about in our post-game video on Saturday in Columbus and what we heard about from Amari Campbell, stud linebacker, who's really the only one who's consistently performed week in and week out on this defense. He said, look, there are no pre-snap communication issues. I'm able to get the call out to everybody.
Yep.
We are having issues with one person or two people out of 11 doing the wrong thing, and the entire defense is breaking down. Sometimes the offense motions or their route trees or whatever happens after the snap or after our play call, and people just go off and do their thing and break out of the scheme. And Terry Smith said today, when asked about the corners, look, some of these guys were undercutting routes. They weren't doing what they were told, is essentially what it was boiling down to. And you start to see why, maybe that's why Jim Knowles' defense doesn't look very good right now. I think Jim Knowles certainly is worthy of some of the blame because he runs such a complex scheme, and he must adapt to his players and get it right. But I also think that this group of Penn State defenders has really let him down and let down the fan base this season. It's just, you can't have that. Like, you have to play within the framework of the defense, and otherwise you see what happens. You throw for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns with 2 really good wide receivers. It's just how it goes. I'm with you, Bob. Don't say you're going to fix it unless you're going to fix it. I think
I would just stop talking and let the results speak for themselves, because the more you say you fix it and you don't fix it, it reflects on you for your future. Where are you going to be next year? You know what I mean? I just think James said it too much, and he was gone. Terry said it a bunch, and I do think he is trying as best as he can, but I don't know if they're tuning people out. I don't know if they're doing what they want to do, but there's a problem, and they're playing the wrong teams to be smug and stuff like that. And I would also say this, Max. It's not just in the secondary that this is going on. I'm not so sure that there aren't issues at the safety position, maybe other than Wheatley as well, because I don't want to just throw it all on the corners. But when I look at the defensive line and some of the veterans on that defensive line that came into the year highly regarded, I mean, you look at the stat sheet, you look at what's going out on the field. He keeps saying they play hard, but you got to play hard. You got to play smart. I think there's issues at every level, and it's not just the secondary, but the secondary got exposed against Ohio State. They could get exposed this week, but there are so many problems at so many different positions that I think you have to be careful what you say, not only to the media, but also to the fans if you can't get it fixed.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was actually pleasantly surprised by some of the numbers that came out on the defensive line this week, but I absolutely think that those issues are also on the defensive line and also on linebackers not named Amari Campbell. It's just the group it hasn't played up to par for a lot of different reasons. Bob, I will say, I think to an extent, considering the opponent, considering the context of a 5-game losing streak, some people might rather just watch you run 4 verticals on offense and throw up a 50-50 ball on every single play and just see what happens. They're not going to do that, but like to a certain extent, you got nothing to lose. If you want to fix it, like prove it, you know? I mean, and that's not good football, right? That's not good process, but what else is there? Like, let Ethan Grunkemeyer show his arm. Let these young receivers go and, like, even if they're running a route wrong, like, what's going to happen? You're going to lose? You already lost 5 in a row, you know? Like,
I think Penn State's offense, with what's going on at quarterback and with what the issues are with their veteran wideouts, and I think they're kind of playing with one hand tied behind their back. Mm-hmm. A lot of the receivers can't separate. We haven't seen it, but then we haven't seen enough of the young guys who probably can separate. But you also can't afford, Max, to throw it 30 times. I don't think, because the quarterback's going to get hit, Max, and if the quarterback gets hit and doesn't get up, the season is it's over the moment that happens if he can't get up. So I just think it's pretty dire on offense. I actually don't know. If I was Terry Smith, what the priority actually is for him, because you can make a case for about 5 things, and you can't fix 5 things, much less 1 or 2 things. So I just think he has been put in a spectacularly challenging position where there really is no right way. So I think you try and somehow get to 500 at the end of the season, no matter how you do it. But any more big injuries, and that's it. That's it. It's over.
Yeah, and that's why you're potentially going to see some guys who think about, do I really need to stick this thing out? Like, I could be a mid-round draft pick next year. I could go to the NFL Combine. We'll see. I'm not predicting that's going to happen. I'm just presenting it as a real possibility.
Yeah. Anything else before we get out of here on the blue-white breakdown? You said, Johnny, and you were going to go live. Hopefully you'll get – I'm pretty sure you're going to get a lot of comments if everything's in working order, either on social media or whatever, and you can get to them. But anything else about what Terry said today that struck your fancy, as the adults like me like to say? No one says that anymore but me. Yeah. Anything stand out to you? Anything you want to see? Anything that really disappointed you on Saturday that we haven't had a chance to discuss or write about just yet that's stuck in your craw?
No, Bob, we're going in circles, right? Yeah. And I think, like, the story's the same every week. Wide receiver.
We're trying not to depress Penn State fans, but there's just not a lot. There's not a lot to get excited about. So yeah, it's. And we're talking about a team that's got to go play Indiana in 5 days. So, hey, there's going to be some I'll say this. There's going to be some opportunities after the Indiana game for this Penn State team, if they can stay together and if they can stay healthy and get no one else hurt that they can't afford to get hurt. There are going to be opportunities in the final 3 weeks of the season to get wins. Mm-hmm. And for a team that's probably looking at a 6-game losing streak, dead in the eye, I'm going to write something. A lot of Penn State fans probably don't remember the last time they lost 6 games in a row. I remember it very well because I lived it, so I'll be getting to that. But I will say, trying to keep it positive, Max, once the Indiana game is over and it's in the books, there are going to be winnable games the rest of the way. And I think if I was a Penn State fan, Max, I would focus on those games and what you see from this team and this coaching staff, because those are the games I think I think a lot of people are going to judge them on, right? It's they almost beat Iowa. They really weren't going to beat Ohio State. That's just not a real thing. They're not going to beat Indiana. I mean, if that happens, I mean, I don't know what else there is to say about something like that. But I think let's just judge this team on the games they have a shot at winning. And Saturday isn't one of them. So I think that's my positive spin. What say you?
I think that's absolutely correct. And like I mentioned, like the Nebraska game just got a lot easier because Dylan Raiola's out for the year. Fibula. Yeah, that was a tough one. Here's one point that I wanted to make. We are starting to see some of the young guys who need to be priorities to be on this team next year. I don't think all of them are going to happen, but Chaz Coleman played a really good game against Ohio State. Yeah. Alex Tash came in at linebacker and did some nice things. Keon Wiley finally played a little more at linebacker. Koby Howard, he's a part of it. That's what you're doing here, and you hope that those guys continue to do it and show it in those final 3 games where you say, okay, we can really go out and maybe do something here. As you said, if there's a positive spin, it's those guys.
Okay, Max Ralph, I think that's a wrap on this blue-white breakdown. It's Indiana week, which followed Ohio State week, which before that it was we got to go to Iowa, try and win it, Iowa City week. So it's
been a grind.
I just think about Terry, and I think, you know what? I hope he realizes. I know he's a Penn State guy, a Penn State captain, and he's doing what he has to do for his school. He's a very proud Penn State alum. But man, I can't think in the history of college football in a situation where you're taking over at midseason. I can't think of an interim coach facing a many more daunting first 3 games than this guy has had to face. So also I would remember that, Penn State fans. Terry Smith's done so much good at Penn State, and he really's done a great job as a recruiter. He did a great job as a player. He's a great position coach. It's easy to remember how it goes in a situation like this, but please don't forget. I mean, he's been a Penn State guy since the late '80s, and so whatever happens on Saturday, let's just judge it maybe, and the assistants and the players on the month, the mid to late November. So. Yes. Max, we'll see. Penn State fans, look out for Max and Johnny McGonigal on Thursday with their live Blue-White Breakdown podcast. We're going to have a bunch of stories based upon Terry Smith's availability, an assistant coaching availability, hopefully, and some player availability. And then it's time for Max and I to get our butts to renovate the ongoing renovation of Beaver Stadium and the press box. We'll be there. Hopefully some of you will be there as well. If you see us, stop by and say hi.